So Georgia, so this is very casual. I have a couple questions to ask you. If you want to talk about anything else, throw it out there and we can talk about it.
Of course.
Okay, so let's just start off with who you are and what you do.
Okay. Hi everyone. I am Georgia Venetsanakos. I am the VP of Corporate and Legal Strategy at Hitachi Digital. That's a Hitachi Limited company. We work in the technology division of Hitachi Limited's business, and I've been with the company for 23 years.
Wow, that's a very long time.
Yes, that's right.
Always in the same location?
No. I've had different roles in different locations. I've worked around the world with Hitachi in the Americas, in APAC as the general counsel, in EMEA as the general counsel. So I've done sales-facing roles as well as other roles, and my current role is a global role looking after our corporate functions and our legal operations, which is I've been doing that since 2017.
Got it. So with legal operations, that must be like a significant amount of digital transformation and process transformation involved in that.
Yeah, that's right. So, we founded the legal operations role back in 2017. It was quite, when it was still quite nascent in the industry to have legal operations, but we recognize its importance, and it's only growing in significance and importance to the success of our legal department. And I'm sure it's the case with other companies as well, where we're really seeing that it's driving a lot of the strategy around the legal work, focusing on productivity and all of the efficiencies that digitization is bringing.
Yeah. So, what's an example of how work has changed pre legal operations to where you are now?
Well, let me pick Athennian. So before I do that, because I think I've got a great example with Athennian, but we've got a kind of a 4-pillar strategy, which is important to our operations. So we're looking to introduce technology and automation around our contract management, around our legal entity management, which is where Athennian plays, around our kind of workflows and automating workflows and interactions with the business, and then around our legal training. So there are 4 pillars. And I know other companies have, e-billing and other things that they focus on. And we're kind of making strides in all of those areas. But I'll give you an example with Athennian. So before we implemented Athennian, all of our legal entity information was in spreadsheets and in computers, in our folks' computers around the world. And every time we needed legal entity information, it became this huge drive to, find that information, cross-check to make sure it was accurate, and then do all of that work. So it was a real time suck, and it really sucked for some of our junior people who had to run around and do this work. And then by implementing Athennian, we could centralize it, and we have one source of truth. Access rights are given to people around the world, and therefore we now have centralized, confirmed information, which is almost instantaneously at our fingertips. And that has been a huge game changer, not only for our daily operations, but for our big corporate projects, our M&A, post-M&A integration. It's just the productivity gains have been enormous.
Interesting. And so how many, maybe we can talk a little bit about what Hitachi Digital does and its global footprint, just to give everybody a sense of.
It's in the technology division of Hitachi, and we have both. We have companies that have both a product focus as well as a services and delivery focus. Some of our companies are purely services, so we have a number of subsidiary companies under the Hitachi Digital parent company. There's about 80 to 90 legal entities around the world, and they span all the geographies. And so they have quite different businesses and they have different business needs, but they all have a need for legal entity management. So there's a fundamental, consistently required need, but the way that plays out in the business and the kind of information that they need can differ from business to business depending on whether there's a services bent or a product bent to the business.
Got it. That's helpful. So it sounds like you went from a model where the data was highly decentralized. And if something emerged where somebody somewhere in the world needed access to certain data, it's a bit of a scavenger hunt to find that data.
And the dial-a-friend network, the dial-a-friend network's huge. Because I have been at the company for so long, my nickname is the Vault, and there's a reason for that because I know where all the skeletons are buried, but I also know where all the information is. So often the dial-a-friend network would bubble up to me and they'd go, Georgia, we need this. And I'd be like, oh, I remember that from, whatever year, and go to this person, or let me see if I can find it in my records. And, it's just not scalable. It's not workable. And, something had to give.
Got it. That makes sense. And so what teams are logging into Athennian and accessing the data?
Yeah. So I think one of the things about the success of integrating Athennian into our operations was that, we were really careful about who were our stakeholders from the start. We didn't do this just as a legal team hoping for the best that it would be adopted. We went and spoke to our tax folks, our finance folks. What are their pain points? What's important to them? And we took them along with us when we did our implementation, so that they had skin in the game. They had an understanding of what this would mean for them. And therefore, today we have our tax and finance and sales operations folks. They all have varying degrees of access based on requirement. And that was something that we really liked about Athennian, because we could tailor the access that we needed depending on who the requester was. And so now they work, just as well in our in terms of accessing the information from Athennian as we do in the legal department. The super users in our department are obviously our corporate secretaries, our company secretaries, our legal operations folks, but also our lawyers day to day.
Yeah. So did you say that you have sales operations people accessing the software?
Yeah, they do. Now, I'm not close enough to all of the local businesses to understand whether they are doing it directly or whether they're doing it through their local finance people, because there's obviously quite a symbiotic relationship. But with our sales operations people, there are people who are very heavily involved in the contractual negotiations, just in our transactional work. And so if they need to verify corporate information, there's no reason why we couldn't give them the appropriate level of access that they would need to make sure that they're, working with the right, company details when they do their proposals and negotiations.
Right. That makes sense. And do you think that having Athennian in place, has that improved alignment and productivity between legal and the finance teams?
Yes, I do believe it. I believe it actually has smoothed a lot of interactions, partly because we're not a bottleneck anymore. If our finance people need to get information for their own purposes, then they don't have to come back to the legal department. Or if they're not getting the right levels of access, they can come back to our legal operations folks. They don't have to come to me. They don't have to go to their, kind of counterpart lawyers in the field. They can go straight to our legal operations team and say, hey, I need access for this reason or that reason. And so it's a time saver. It becomes a much more efficient interaction, and there's far less finger pointing, because everybody knows what their role is. It's like, that catch-22 of finance pointing the finger at legal, saying, we need this information yesterday for our purposes, and you're delaying. and then legal pointing the finger back to finance saying, you're not giving us enough information for us to know what we need to give you.
Yeah.
It eliminates a lot of that. And so, that helps.
Probably it's probably eliminated a lot of emails to the legal department as well.
100%. And we
Yeah.
all could do with less emails.
Well, yeah. No, absolutely. So like zooming out, like when we think about technology transformation in legal departments, how are you thinking about talent in terms of what skills talent will need, now or in the future, right? Like, right? Like, does most of what is done in the legal world is pattern matching to existing information or knowledge, right? Like, pattern matching clauses into a contract, pattern matching, case law into a situation that you're dealing with, or regulations or legislation. And now we have this crazy technology called AI, which is the super calculator of pattern matching. How do you think about skills and talent going forward? And, I guess this is oversimplistic, but how do you weigh, as an analogy, the ability for somebody to, write a really good prompt into AI versus being able to draft a good clause manually in a contract?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think the kind of evolving skill set needs to be broken up into two areas. One is the lawyers themselves, and one is the legal technologists who are the backbone of bringing in the right technology to hit the business requirements for that particular business. So we've got the skill set for our legal operations folks, which is understanding the legal landscape enough to understand their kind of the general requirement, but then looking at the business needs and matching that to the technology of the day in a way which is clever, but also then having the wherewithal to kind of create the change management, to bring in the change management support. So that's the legal technologists, and that's a different career path, but a lot of lawyers may well go down that path if they have that interest. So that's one area. The second is around, kind of the legal work itself, the stuff that I've been doing for 35 years, and a lot of it has been manual. A lot of it is matching, as you say, the facts to the law, and coming up with an outcome. Now, in coming up with that outcome, the skill set that is going to be the most important is judgment, right? Because this AI technology not in the foreseeable future, but also I think in the longer term future, is not going to be that valuable unless there is human intervention. And what I mean by that is that, and I think we're already seeing this with, judges knocking back, briefs and stuff that have been written by AI. You can tell that, they're not necessarily on point.
Some of them have fabricated case law in them.
Yeah, like hallucinations all over the place. So we can't have that in our business. Our reputations are everything. And therefore, we can't have that in our business. So the one thing we mandate with the AI that we have implemented, and we've implemented in those 4 pillars that I mentioned, particularly around contract review and management, is that nothing goes out unless judgment has been applied. And that judgment is as important today as it was when I was a junior lawyer, but I think it's actually going to be more important. So applying the technology to help us become more efficient doesn't mean that we just reject the notion that, we don't apply our own judgment, and make sure that we are using the technology rather than it using us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is around the building blocks of drafting and so forth. Again, it is important for a junior lawyers to kind of understand how to draft things, right?
Yeah. Yep.
No, I'm not so worried about that because we teach AI, and it's important to make sure that we teach the LLM properly to make sure that we get the business outcomes we need. But at the same time, we teach AI, but AI teaches us. So I'm a believer that if I have the right guidance and direction for a junior lawyer, I can use AI to help them learn how to draft more efficiently. But my job is to teach them judgment and to teach them to be a lawyer with value add. And that's where I would focus my attention on. So use the
Right.
AI to become a more efficient teacher, but don't let go of your responsibility to teach.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at a dinner a few weeks ago, and I met a guy that had started a company that was offering model insurance. And
Right.
so they're selling insurance to AI software vendors or software
Yeah.
vendors and AI to underwrite the risk that the models will create for their customers that can crystallize into damages. Um, and things like fabricating case law,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
would be
absolutely.
one of them. I've been and you could see that the damages on that type of stuff would be significant, right?
For sure. For sure.
Um,
We've been
yeah.
very careful in our choice of AI. Like we use proprietary systems that
Mm,
are contained, and certainly for contract reviews. We've spent a lot of time training up the AI the LLM in the platform to the large language model in the platform to ensure that we get the best outcome for our business. So we train it up as much as we can on our positions, our risk profile to get the best outcome. The more you put in, the more you get out. But I just also wanted to highlight, how much we appreciate Athenian's AI tool. And I know, speaking to Tao, who is our company secretary, she uses a lot of the AI driven tools that you offer, and she loves them.
yeah.
Whether it be, creating share certificates using the templates,
Yeah.
the fact that we, get certificates of good standing, we get lots of requests for the same certificate of good standing, and be able to use the AI to go out to kind of like cut through some of that,
Yep. Yeah.
routine work. It's really invaluable. So it goes across the board. You've got to be selective and really smart about AI. And if something's not working, like if you're using AI in a way which is really not creating an ROI for the business, stop doing it.
Mhm.
Stop
Yep.
doing it and try something else. And there's a lot of experimenting because it's new, right? No,
Okay.
none of us were, born with an an AI kind of
Yeah.
focus, and therefore
Yeah.
we all have to kind of learn as we go along.
Well, there's all these new concepts. Like
Yeah, yeah,
there's a
100%.
concept called model. It's called model drift. Have you heard of this? Model drift?
No, no, what's that?
Okay. So, um, so in conventional software, right, you have to change the code for the software to change for the software's behavior to change, right?
Yeah,
But with AI, you're reliant on these models, like everybody's using some model,
yeah,
right? No, building stuff from scratch except the model companies, but the models get updated, and as the models get updated, the same input is creating a different output,
oh, that's interesting, right?
because it's changing,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
That's
And
right.
so now imagine you're a software vendor and you've created some capability that uses AI. And on day one, the same, this input produces this output. But by day 7, the same input produces a very different output.
Because it's learned along the way.
Changed.
It's just
It's just
changed.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a dynamic thing, right?
yeah,
You've changed nothing about your software. It's just the
yeah.
model has evolved,
That's right.
and like I don't think it's 7 days. It's probably 7 weeks or 7 months or something.
Yeah,
But they call anyways. This concept is model drift, but it's very difficult for software companies to provide um, you know, consistent user experiences when you have this concept of model drift.
Yeah, and if you take that, kind of a step further for us, being a technology company, as lawyers, we're supposed to now come up with, kind of legal terms and conditions to put in our contracts with our
Yeah.
customers. So where were able to say, hey, this piece of software that our human developers have developed has
Yeah.
has a set of spec, and we're going to warrant to that specification, right?
Yeah.
That's simple. That's a nice simple thing that we can articulate in a contract, put the the caveats around, and it's all very certain. And we can do that for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever the warranty period is, right?
Yeah.
Now we've got challenges because if our developers are using AI and there's AI generated code and content in our products, then all of a sudden, the traditional way that we've approached warranties and other promises, contractual promises,
Yeah. So like IP indemnities and
our
IP.
indemnities are changing. So
Yeah.
that's the piece of the puzzle we're trying to figure out. And we've got our best and brightest minds working on that at the moment across the different companies, whether it be our services companies or our product companies. We're all trying to figure that out and go and you can't go in with the attitude of like, well, I'm going to put this all on the customer. I'm just going to absolve my responsibility and say, if there's AI in there, we give you no promises. You take it as is and, hope for the best. It doesn't work that way. And yet the customer who comes in and says, I'm going to, impose draconian terms on a vendor who's providing me with software in a clever way, that's not going to hold. It holds in the short term, but it doesn't hold in the long term, right? So, so they're the challenges that we were talking about that just yesterday. We've got a task force trying to figure that out at the moment. So that's what's on my.
Good to trade notes on that. That would be good to trade notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, we'd love your insight. You're on the side as a software company that's doing this. But you've got customers just like we've got customers, right? So it'd be interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Okay, last question. So you called out Athennian. That's very generous of you as a piece of software that you've had some success with, and that makes me very happy.
Tremendous success. We're very, very happy.
Fantastic. Are there any other technology companies that you've worked with that you'd like to call out that you've had great success with as well?
Yeah, well, I might as well give them a plug if that's okay. Yeah. So I fell in love with Athennian back in 2017 at the first CLOP conference, and at the same time I fell in love with another suitor called Luminance. Luminance, and then so I was able to bring on Luminance for our contract management and contract review platform. Mm-hmm. And so my first two choices in the AI world were Athennian for corporate management and Luminance for contract management, and stayed the course since 2017, kind of making the case internally even before AI was really a thing. And it took a long time to kind of get those two platforms enough recognition within our, kind of like executive team and so forth to kind of get them serious about investing in legal technology. But I'm glad I spent the course because you've both come through for our operations, and we're very happy with both. So there's those two are our the foundational pillars of our approach, and then we've just in the last year brought on a workflow platform through a company called Checkbox, and that is a kind of they help us to kind of like implement a platform where we can develop our own automated workflows and our own agents, chatbots, if you like. They're our knowledge agent in various areas. So basically now we, particularly in our compliance areas, but we kind of like do a lot of self-help with the business in terms of using those chatbots to kind of get people through what we call our legal front door, which is our virtual front door, and a lot of the routine questions and tasks and so forth now go through our knowledge agents, and that's
cool.
brilliant. That's been a real game changer for our lawyers, freeing them up from kind of routine questions. Who signs what contract? How do I get my compliance training done? Whatever it might be, those basic things. And we're finding now that we're going up the chain in terms of some of the things that we can get those knowledge agents to do. They don't replace lawyers, and it's really important to emphasize that. Lawyers are the smart ones who apply judgment. We've talked about that. And then the final AI driven technology that we've introduced is a Synthesia, which is a training platform. And that is amazing. So you basically put in the content and you come up with these amazing videos. We use it for training, but it can be used for all kinds of video applications. And you pick your avatars. But we've actually done an avatar of our general counsel, which is amazing. It's really amazing how accurate his avatar is. And we basically feed in, kind of like communications and training and so forth. We don't use him.
It looks like a video that the general counsel has.
Yeah. So the general counsel can basically do a presentation to the executives in Japan, for example, without being there, and he's on video. And the beauty of that platform is that it's translated into different languages. So we can use an avatar, and we often use avatars which are, kind of like different from different markets. So in APAC, we may use an Asian avatar. In EMEA, we will change that to somebody else. So there's a different look, but also that can automatically be translated into a bunch of languages. So we just did a presentation for our Japanese executive committee using the general counsel's avatar, where he was speaking Japanese.
Wow,
it was amazing, and he's British, so it has a little bit of a funky accent, but his likeness is amazing, and it's that again is a game changer. We have to make sure that we have obviously very strict controls about how we use that, and he signs off on everything that uses his likeness. But we're now rolling out communications and kind of like little micro trainings into the business. When, for example, now with the new AI Act that's coming into place in Europe, we're going to do like 1 to 2 minute like grabs on a video of important information, and just blasting that out to the organization in different languages.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah,
so there are 4 areas of use, and again, that's where we see the ROI for our company. And other companies are, I think it's really important if you're going to be doing an AI strategy that you really pick your battles, and make sure you first of all do something now. Don't wait for the perfect solution. There is no such thing. And then secondly, pick your battles and make sure that you've really focused on a business problem, rather than just, oh my God, I think I've just got to adopt AI because, I'm reading a whole bunch of stuff that this is what departments are doing. Because otherwise it could be a colossal waste of money. And my last point I think that I wanted to make is, simply because you adopt AI doesn't mean then you just rest on your laurels and, that's it. Because I think we're all learning, and one of the key things that we like to think we're good at is giving feedback to our vendors on, their journey and their path to develop and improve their products. And I know that our team works with yours in terms of giving feedback on what's working and what's not. And we hope that by adopting that front foot, we're helping to make our vendors more successful, and that the relationship is symbiotic.
Yep. No, that's a productive way to look at the relationship. It's we talk about our customers as partners. And it takes 2 to tango with
certainly
these types.
Does. And in an unknown area where you don't know whether you're going to fall off a cliff or walk into the meadow together, you just don't know where you're going to end up, right? So you have to We have to
Right.
take responsibility for our path, but bring our vendors along in a trusted relationship. And
Yep.
Adrian, that's what we think we get out of Athennian. We're really happy with the relationship that we've built.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, why don't we leave it on that high note?
Absolutely.
That's great. Georgia, thanks so much. That was fantastic.
Really appreciate your time as well.